Hi and welcome to this week's video. In this video I get the Cabanes pretty much completed and I start work on the tailplane struts. So let's get cracking, come on now. I can't get that in far enough because the head of the bolt is touching there. It's going to be interesting how much I need to remove. Go back through the hole. Got to be very careful now because I've reamed it for the bolts, not to damage the holes and elongate the thing, and mark that tube there. No, that's a problem. I can do the other side without before I ream the thing right the way through. So lesson learned. In the end, I did have to cut into the inner tube section, but not by anywhere near as much. So that's a 10mm hole that's then been dressed back out to the edge because it was right on the edge. So there we have it. That now fits. I'll have a little look at the rear strut system after I've finished off the front end. Okay, so as suspected, I ended up having to drill a hole in the top rear strut. So we've got a hole in the top rear one, not indicated on the plan. Got a hole rather than a slot in the middle one. Got a slot in the top front one, not indicated on the plan, and in the bottom front one, again not indicated in the plan, but needed. There's no way around it. You just couldn't fit that lot together without having the slots there. Reduction in strength calculation, well, because we've got sufficient land all the way around in the direction of stress, we've lost nothing significantly at all in any of the positions. So I don't need to put a reinforcing tube in here, which was one of the things I thought I might have to do if the calculations came out, but no. And these have, the two on the front have no reaction at all, so, well, less than 2%, as I said, loss in strength. And that's being rather generous at high stresses, so I don't see it being an issue at all. Right, I've rounded the corners at the bottom of the front spar mounting plate. So they've been rounded. I've made up two packers to go in between. There'll be another packer need to be made up later on for where the spar is actually attached. The wings are actually attached to go between the two plates, and there's also going to be sort of tapered spacers once the wings are attached. That's the plan. So this lot's all made up, it's all been deburred, ready now for me just to bolt together. Some stage in the future they'll get painted, but I'm not doing that. I'm not planning to do that just yet anyway. So there they are. I'll get this little lot bolted together, and actually I'll show you how good it is before I actually tighten up the nuts and bolts. Just bring the 4 bolts through. You'll see that there's no shake factor. I'll just do that for you. Here's the assembly, no nuts on it, and there's no movement. Just, you cannot move that at all. There is no movement there at all. So that's because everything's reamed. I'm just going to bolt, just going to put the nuts on. I'll put some washers on, put the nuts to get on there, and that assembly is then ready to go. So at the moment I've got that little lot set up there with the bolts. It's not tightened down. There's very little movement. I've checked that is absolutely vertical compared to the Longeron datum. So Longeron 0, that there is at 90 degrees, which is good. I've removed the front part of the jig because it's just too wide, to make sure I get the right distance between there and there. So from the center of this upright here to the center of the gap here is the same as the distance between the centers of my my upper wing spars, which is 485 millimeters. So I try and show you that that's it, going the center there to the center there, 485. So that now allows me to start making up the tube that goes between there and there on both sides. Okay, for AS5, which is the brace that goes between the two sets of spar mounts here, we've got to drill a hole 1 inch in from the end, an 1/8 inch hole, and then flatten the tube out in a vise. Looks quite an interesting sort of factor. Of course that needs to be actually 1 inch to where it's the flat section needs to be 1 inch, so have a little experiment. I have done tube flattening before, but we need to make sure we've got enough land out the side, so the bolt needs to go in here 1/2 inch in, and we need to have 1/2 inch because of the edge distance that's set up on the bracket. So the flat bit here needs to be 1 inch long. I need to just try and work out exactly where that hole should be compared to that, or does it actually need to be at that point there? I can't remember, so I'm going to have a little experiment and see what comes up. Okay, so my little experiment, as I remembered it, the hole should be just at the end of the flattened section, so that all works. I didn't use a radius piece of wood, which is what I'll use on the final product. I just stuck it in the vise, but as I suspected, with this thickness of 6061 T6 aluminium, when you flatten it down and it springs back into, because it's got quite a chunk of memory, that's minor, is that bend radius to create a nice flat end is too tight and it cracks, which means I'm going to have to anneal it. So there is my hole, centered 1 inch and 1/16 up from the end, both ends, and these are my pieces of wood I'm going to use to actually create the flattened area. Note radius there, 1/8 of an inch radius, so we should have a nice smooth flattening. We'll see how we get on. So there it is after annealing it. I use the oil flash method, which you've heard me talk about before and seen me do when I did the little fairing pieces for the I think it was the upper wing fuel tank area. So there it is. It's been flattened out with a piece of wood. Left some marks from the grain of the wood on there, but not too bad. Nice and flattened out. So I'm just going to find the centre point, 1/2 inch in, centre punch it, and then radius the ends. Do that both ends. It should be just about right, but I'll do the second end by picking it up using the bracket on the aircraft itself to make sure we've got that exactly the right distance. Yeah, the issue I've got with the kit supplied item is the distance between here and here is narrower than the base of the plate, so I'd have to cut away the plate. That's shown on the plans that you can do that, but unfortunately it would take it in to lose the edge distance required for the brackets. So you're gaining one area, losing the other. So and it would also be underneath the footprint of the brackets. So these bolt heads, you wouldn't be able to put the bolt heads in. You'd have to put the bolt heads in and then fit the plate, which would mean you'd never be able to take the actual landing wires off without dismantling the Cabane mounts, which would be a real pain. So here's a different type of centre punching tool. Here's the actual hardened punch. There's a cone there which centres everything on the hole, and this lot pushes back in so it's absolutely flat and perpendicular to the surface. And I'm using it to transfer the holes from here down onto the plate below, which is the one for the landing wires. I'm making up my own one because it's coming out slightly different dimensions to the one supplied, going along with everything else that I'm doing that's slightly different. So it's as simple as that. There's that centre punched in line with those holes there, so I can drill that and then I can actually just put a finished ream through if necessary. Well, there's the landing wire bracket, basically fabricated up in position, but there's going to be yet more mods in that particular area to allow me to put the wing tank selector up in the sort of position, something like that on a bracket. So that's going to go into there. That's the current plan. Fuel line coming out from that will run down. Thinking about coming down the back of this strut here with a fuel filter visible there, or I might run it along the tube and then down to go into the main tank. We'll work that one out. So next bit, take this lot apart again at the front end here and get these braces riveted. I am. Okay, now that I've riveted this top end together and got it re-bolted together, the last sort of real bit of construction for this swing set is to drill the holes through these bottom brackets here. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch brad bit just to produce a centre mark there. I don't think I can get in with the drill to drill it through for the bushing. I'll see if I can, but I'm pretty sure that my guide won't fit. So what I'll end up doing is drilling right the way through 2mm. I can then use the guide on the other side and drill back to make sure everything is spot on for those bushings. Well, there it is, all generally in place. One swing set, the Cabane struts. Okay, so here's the tail strut tubing supplied, and I flattened the end here. Those not drilled the same way as it did for the section between the two mounts on the Cabane strut. This tube is relatively thick walled for its diameter, and I annealed it, otherwise it's split or cracked the same way as the other would. So this has been annealed, and it comes out at 1/2 inch wide, which really one could argue is not enough edge distance for the bolt hole, but these are in tension and compression only. So it's what's on the plan, and it works out about right. I've rounded the edge off, and this is now going to be fitted. I've only done one end, the other end has yet to be cut off to length and things, but I've already marked the sort of centre line for the edges for the flattened out area, so I know how to get that into the right orientation. So the next bit I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this onto the fuselage by the one end, and from there we can then find the angle and make up the little brackets to hold the end onto the tailplane, and then I'll cut this to length and flatten it so that it can be fitted. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so you're looking at this from the back face. Here's the tube. It's going to come up, but it's got to go roughly in line with a bolt hole here. That's where the bracket's going to be. So just to get the angle for the bracket, I'm just using this bevel gauge, and I'm just going to align that. It might need a little fine tweak, but that's the angle to how much I'm going to bend the bracket. Now we'll get on and do that. So I've drilled the hole at the end and the sort of radius, worked out where I want the bend to start, so I've allowed that sort of radius all the way around. I've added about 1/16 of an inch further on, so that's where I want the bend to start. That's a 1/4 inch further out because I'm using a bend radius of a 1/4 inch. This is 1/8 of an inch thick, and according to my charts the bend radius should be approximately twice the thickness of the material for T6, 6061 T6 and 6082 T6 should be double the thickness of the material as a bend allowance. So I've got some rather old bending gauge bars here for dealing with the work. One with a little red dot, that's actually a 1/4 inch. So what I do is I'll put this in, and that second line there I want to be level with the top of my my bend bars. That's the radius I'm going to bend this towards myself. Just double check the line which I put there, that 1/4 inch line is in line there. We are at 90 degrees that way, so my bend is going to be in the correct orientation, and I need to bend it back to that sort of angle there, which is going to be sighted. This is a cold bend. And that is pretty much spot on. So this out. There you go. If you can see that nice curved radius there, centered nicely. So all I've got to do now is I'm going to dress that bit there. I'm going to cut this off a little bit over length, and that way when I've done the bend, sort of the flattening of the tube, the other end of the tube, I've got a little bit of wiggle room here. Now this needs to be bent so it's straight, and the tube will go in normally on the side here, so it's pointing towards this bolt which is holding it all together. That would be the norm. That way all the lines of force are in line, but you can put it on the other side so that it's pointed towards the centre of the bolt. I can't remember what it's got on the plan. There are two different standards. It depends on the situation, where it is on the aircraft, how it's set up. So oil flash annealed again and flattened out the ends of the tubes there, so they're ready to go. And it's now time to offer things up and get some bits marks up on the aircraft. The datum on the spar is at 0 degrees, and you can see I've just set the tailplane to 0 degrees, and the strut is clamped in place there. So I'm just going to put the drill up through the hole. So looking at the plans, the struts, this is showing the upper struts here going down to the horizontal stabilizer, and it sort of shows it going down to the tab and sitting on top of the tab. So nowhere on the plan does it show the other side where the struts go down, but I'm assuming that it would be just a mirror image. There's the fit on the aircraft. This is a temporary short bolt because we'd have another tab going off the top. But there we have the tab and the bolt and the nut going through there, going down to here. This bit's on because this allowed me to work out that the forward strut needs to go on the top of this tab, or the two of them can't be on the same side, put it that way. Otherwise we have a slight issue. And just to show that everything is great, so just to show everything's great, there's the tailplane 0, that's been set on the datum, and it's showing 0 there. So this section of the horizontal stabilizer is horizontal. I suppose I'm going to start working on the forward ones, and with that we have to check that we have do any corrections in any twists that we might have here. So I've got to get the thing set up with the longeron horizontal, then I can play with that lot, but that's going to be in the next video. Well, that's it for another video. We've managed to get the Cabanes pretty much sorted out, and we made a good start on the tailplane struts. So hey ho, let's see what we get up to next time. Bye now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.